What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering, and today's been a little up and down. We covered Copa in the 2:30 video. I had one kind of off topic at 11:30 that people could take or leave. This is a continuation story of Saturday. Richard Lewis, who won a eSports journalism award, delivered one of the most fantastic speeches I've heard ever. Most of the time when you see an award ceremony, it's a bunch of fart sniffing and agenda pushing. But what Richard put together was beautiful.
So anyway, what I just want to talk about is why this award's important. Not my award that I won, because that would be narcissistic. All our awards. Because we have to look after ourselves. Because there's these external media companies, they're looking at esports, and they want to write the history, and they want to tell the stories. And you know who I'm talking about? Polygon, people like that, Waypoint, the Kotakus, right? And their approach to writing about our thing is twofold. They've consistently embarrassed themselves writing pieces that expose their complete ignorance about our scene, lack of sources, and unoriginal opinions on topics we have talked to death for 20 years. The second has been to write hit pieces and smears, mostly propagated on half-truths or out-and-out lies, and it's about some of you in this room. Give them hell. They write about it because they think if they get 1 or 2 or 12 of you out of the way, they can get their friends in, get their cronies in, take over and gatekeep our industry.
And Richard, whom I've had on this show, and I respect his work greatly, wasn't done yet. He brought actual examples of the absolute hackery that Kotaku, Polygon, and Waypoint all propagate.
So let's compare and contrast. The reason I'm stood here is probably one story. I wrote a story about a great guy, one of our best ambassadors, Rick Fox, who was receiving racial abuse while he was in Echo Fox. It's a disgrace what happened to him. I love that guy. We all owe him a great debt. That's the kind of story I want to break, and that's the kind of story I want to fight for. Let's have a look at some of their greatest hits from the mainstream games press. Well, outside of Cecilia's work, it's not great. There were the lies that they printed about a CSGO major event being a Trump rally because the journalist misread a sign. Great work. What about the time they all rallied around to stop abuse of a female Overwatch player? That didn't exist, which they would have found if they'd done a cursory fact check. And of course, there's the annual hit piece they write trying to cancel any one of you. Oh, what about that interview they did with the world's most popular streamer outside of a toilet? One throwaway quote still haunting him today. It's an outrage.
Now, I don't want to play the whole thing. Richard does cover his speech on Tesserto, which I'm going to briefly touch on here and leave a link for you to check out his actual article because, you know, I like to give traffic to good articles. And also you should consider following him on Twitter as well. But the interesting thing that happened was before he started that speech, he gave a specific shout out to a game journo at Kotaku, Cecilia D'Antanasio, the same reporter, journalist, who had broken the story at Riot Games and a couple of other articles around viewbotting and things like that. You know, actual articles, actual interesting things in the esports space. And let's take a look at that.
I just want to say that I don't consider good journalism a competitive endeavor. I do consider, if you will accept it, I'm up here taking this award for everybody else in my field. There were some great names there. I'm real sorry it wasn't you guys. You will get your time. I got 2 of these. I won't get another one. There was a name that should have been on the list, though. Cecilia D'Anastasio. I just want you to know, if you're watching this stream, your work is valued. Your work is necessary. You could have just as easily been stood here giving a better speech than mine.
Now, I'm unaware if there was any beef about not being nominated from Cecilia, but I did reach out directly to Richard and asked, hey, was there something going on here? Is there something weird? I even pressed him on the topic because I thought it was weird that he even mentioned her name. But he said to me that, no, look, I think that it was important essentially to say, hey, hashtag not all Kotaku, and that he reached across the aisle, so to speak, to a corporate journo and said, hey, look, I see you. I see that you're doing good before I'm going to absolutely eviscerate your company that you work for. So what would the fallout be? What would happen after he said this? Because we knew there would be something, and it would appear the fallout has begun. Such a nice thing to name drop Cecilia D'Anastasio right on stage in front of the entire community and world. And how do you think Cecilia would reply? Well, she said, "Take my name out of your mouth. Do not invoke me in the same breath as your conspiracy theories, your calls for harassment, and your fictitious claims about my colleagues. I can't be silent about your toxicity. You need to be more responsible with your platform." Such a low effort reaction. Such an emotional reply, which is indicative of what drives a lot of these people that I commonly point out. They don't understand a lot of things, but they do understand that emotion leads their actions. And while it can be a good thing, in journalism, it isn't. It never is. Activism, sure, but not journalism. And look, obviously, Cecilia works for Kotaku and probably felt like, boy, I've got to get in lockstep. In my opinion, she could have said nothing. Why not say nothing at all? To go ahead and defend the outlets that literally said that there were ableist lyrics in a Persona song, even though there wasn't, they've made innumerable gaffes. Now, they've got some things right in the past. In particular, I think Schreier, for as weaselly as he is, in my opinion, usually gets things right. And when he gets them wrong, he owns up to it. Cecilia didn't need to respond to this. She didn't need to respond with this amount of venom. Just looking at it is very angry. Take my name out of your mouth. What conspiracy theories exactly is she referring to, given everything Richard Lewis said is true, verifiable, and online since the day they printed it? What is Richard Lewis calling for any harassment? What is he saying that's toxic? Cecilia completely, I think, even though Richard did not admit this to me, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reject his reality and insert my own, that this is a brilliant fourth dimensional chess move. Calling out one reporter who has done a few random good things and watch him make him look even better. Now, he probably didn't do this, but it'd be a fun storyline because she did exactly what I expected she would do. Lash out with personal attacks, unproven statements, and generally look like a child. This man publicly complimented her work on a stage full of their colleagues, and this is the reply. To which he replied, "Wondered when you'd do this. I get it. I'm sorry you think pointing out poor and malicious journalism is toxic. Your work suggested you were willing to not be like the rest of the clique. Still, you do you. You should have been on the list regardless." Absolutely classy. And I don't see any future, replies. But again, these words are thrown around with zero meaning. And by the way, Richard also, the day he won the award, had a person who was attempting to blackmail him try it again. An unhinged blue check mark. I don't have it. Why didn't I have it right on me here? It's on the day that he won the award. Somebody tried to essentially fake me to him, even though all the receipts were there. Here it is. "Journalists who openly blackmailed me accused me of being a predator, now making up these gems." This is, by the way, somebody who's verified. "Someone who threatened on stream to have a PI stalk my roommate and won an award tonight. Cool and normal industry. Is there a clip? Got deleted before we could go back and grab it." Well, it never happened. It's so frustrating to see people throw this type of language around when there are actual real people that need help out there, not fake internet weaklings, mental midgets who lie for attention. And then on Deserto, he covered. So about that eSports award speech, he goes on, in the short amount I had, I wanted to recognize my peers, correct the wrongs of Cecilia D. Anastasio not being on the short list, and then address something I value. I had no idea that would be because there were so many topics worthy of being highlighted. Still, the pettiness of some game journalists when it comes to leveraging their platforms to settle scores is only rivaled by politicians. The walk to the stage, which should have been a moment of celebration for me, felt more like a march to the gallows. Still, there was no getting away from it. I couldn't not say it because I knew if I didn't, no one else would. So I trudged out there, pulled out my smudged piece of paper with my ulcer in overdrive, read words I was sure would not only lead to a bunch of negative reprisals, but would fall flat, injecting needlessly serious tone into a night designed for fun. I zoned out. I didn't hear the applause or see the standing ovation. I hugged the person holding the mic. I knew him being the mic holder would most likely embroil him, then walked backstage and hit my media commitments. The strangest of things, as I walked back to the rest of the proceedings, wondered how much trouble I was really in, people started coming up to me and shaking my hand, saying the speech was great. Each person who came to congratulate me seemed to have some anecdote about a time a games publication published something false or out of context, or betrayed the confidence of some sort. The prevailing sentiment was a thankful one. These stories continued long into the night. Jacob Wolf. One of the most frequent objections to my speech was that the line where I stated that the part of my reason they smear so many endemic esports people is the hope of having post-cancellation holes they can plug their cronies into. Some have said this is a conspiracy theory. Let me provide you with an example of games journalism doing exactly this. Jacob Wolf is arguably the most prominent esports journalist we have. The 2018 Esports Journalist of the Year. He is a reporter who breaks several major stories without fail, which is why he's at ESPN. In 2018, Kotaku's rival esports vertical, took upon it themselves to trawl through his Twitter account and find if he had said anything that would constitute a fireable offense. They found when Wolf was between the ages of 13 and 15 years old, before he was a public figure and still a child, he had used a word considered to be a slur while replying to a friend. Having discovered this, one of the authors, Eric Van Allen, deleted thousands of his own tweets, then sent in findings to ESPN before another, Dennis Young, ran the following story. The motivation for this attack was clear to me. It served as a dual purpose of generating outrage clicks and potentially eliminating the lead endemic esports reporter for a rival publication. I can say that quite safely because when I took it upon myself to comb the Twitter histories of every other Gawker Group employee, found multiple instances of them, including senior figures like Jason Schreier, using the exact same slurs they pilloried Wolf for. They took no action and refused to acknowledge it. And you have the long article here. Dr. Disrespect. A few people noted that popular streamer Dr. Disrespect was many of the figures leading the standing ovation in the crowd. It's no wonder many game journalists seem to have taken an intense dislike to him, and it shows in their coverage. Primarily, their objection to him mostly seemed to revolve around him not understanding that Dr. Disrespect is a persona. Sure, it is one of a healthy dose of Guy Beam, the man behind it injected into it, but a persona nonetheless. He was targeted in 2017. He was banned for TKing a PUBG player on stream. The creator, Brendan of PlayerUnknown, Gene couldn't resist tweeting about it, prompting replies from Dr. Disrespect in character, saying, if I could do the splits, I'd roundhouse kick you. If I can't, this prompted a weird response from Green, who suggested that even joking was wrong. Despite clarifying that he knew it was a joke, Polygon wrote the report with the lurid headline, PUBG creator draws the line at real-world threats, even though this is in no way an accurate portrayal of the interaction. In February 2018, a YouTuber called Jimmy Wong, who, by the way, is a hack in my opinion as well, labeled Dr. Disrespect as the R-word for using a mock Asian language, which included several real words from Cantonese, Hawaii, and Korean. When trying to antagonize a Chinese player he encountered in H1Z1, the video itself was heavily edited. Something Wong said was simply to get in the right format for Twitter. The interactions never included any actual words over the line or pejoratives, and the bulk of the complaints made to revolve around the fact that a North American-based player was having to play a Chinese player on U.S. servers. I mean, then PC Gamer ran an article. So it is any wonder that content creators and streamers, for example, don't like these people. You have Dr. Disrespect. Hey guys, Nathan Grayson here, hotshot reporter at the almighty Kotaku website. You know, I've written so many cool things in my life, but nothing compares to my coverage of the 2009 Mobile Angry Birds $100 tournament. And guess what? I won. Then you have, hey guys, Jason Schreier here, editor for Kotaku. Analytics show that Kotaku is on the uprise, averaging 3 to 5 likes per tweet compared to 1 to 3 likes per tweet a year ago. I also wrote a book about video games. I don't want to brag about it. It's a favorite here at the office. I hate myself. I mean, like, this is good. This is why I like Doc. And then you have, of course, Davis. I can't believe people like you exist. The interview was done in a bathroom hallway at a party years ago. Here we go. I have played with multiple women since then, and it got completely blown out of proportion, but gotta love people who like this who don't even watch me pulling an old article to prove a point. And this is what streamer Ninja won't play with female gamers. All this continues to haunt him. It's ridiculous. Modern game journalism is infected with hacks, and the few gems out there like Richard Lewis are fewer and fewer far between. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.